Hello friends, this is my first video on IELTS writing task 1, and as you know, in the writing task of IELTS there are two tasks that we have to write. One is writing task 1, which we have to write in 150 words, and this consists of different types of figures like line, bar, pi, and three more. And writing task 2, and that is an essay, and we have to write in 250 words. So before starting writing task 1 related to line chart today, I would like to tell you that writing task 1 has a great importance in our overall scope. So for instance, we have task 1 score, and we have task 2 score, and we have overall. So if you get task 2 6 bands, and if you get 5.5 in task 1, your overall will be 6. But if this is 5 and this is 6, then your overall will be less, 5.5. So what we understand from this is that it is very important that we should not let the writing task 1 score be less than more than zero point 0.5. It should not be less than more than zero point 0.5. Okay, and similarly, if we take another example, task 1 and we have task 2 and we have overall. So now task 2, suppose you get 5.5 and you get task 1, you write 6.5. So your overall is going to be 6. So in two cases which I have normally experienced in my years of teaching, that either if you are good at task 2, so let your task 1 be not more than 0.5 bands less than task 2. Okay, like 6, 5.5. And if suppose task 2 you are slightly weak, then you should try to aim for 1 band extra in task 1. Then you can get 6 bands or 7 bands, whatever. Like if you have 6 here and you have 7 here, then this is going to become 6. So task 1 has a lot of importance. Now let us start with line chart fully explained. Today I am going to do a line chart fully explained. So like writing task 2, task 1 line chart is also marked on the basis of 4 parameters. We know that there are 4 parameters on the basis of which we are marked. So one is, first of all, it is task response. So what does task response say? Task response says that for line chart, you have to write the first year figures. Like here, you have first year is 1970. So 1970, you have to report all these 4 data, first year figures. This is compulsory. Then you have last year figures. So last year figures in this case is 2040. So you have to report this. And then the trend in between. How did the graph move in between? Whether it rose sharply, whether it rose gradually. So all that we have to mention in trends in between. Then you have compare main features. So here you see you have written make comparisons where relevant. So the task itself tells us, demands of us that we should compare data. So compare main feature. Compare main feature. Then you have report the highest and lowest points. This is again very important. So this appears to be the highest reading for all the data, and this appears to be the lowest reading of all the data. So these things should be reported. And another important thing is not all figures have to be reported or recorded. Not all figures have to be reported. So you can skip out which are not necessary. Otherwise, it can be very lengthy. Okay, now second criteria is coherence and cohesion. So in this, normally we should try to use minimum of linkers. So basically for the first paragraph, I usually start off with to commence with. and for the second I say moving further. Now in between, it's very important that if you see a difference in two readings, so you can write contrast. In contrast, this really works. It will give you marks, and you can write similarly. You can write regarding. You can say regarding this particular say country, like we have countries here regarding this. So we can start with this. We should try to avoid moreover. These now are not appreciated even in task 2. Moreover, then you say furthermore. Don't write these sort of letters. They're not okay. Furthermore. So task 2, when I take up, I have already posted some videos. So there I have given these sort of linkers which should be used in task 2. Now let's come to lexical resources. So lexical resources is the third parameter. This basically means vocabulary. So now I have given you separate vocabulary for reporting first year figures. When you want to report the first year figures, so you will see that in the writing that I have done for this chart. So contributed to, okay, consisted of, comprised of, accounted for, constituted, represented. So 6 of them are there. If you can write 3, 4 and write them, write one for a particular thing and then write another one. So this will give you marks in vocabulary. Then you have vocabulary to describe closing figures. So closing figures vocabulary is closed at, reached at is at what is will make a complex sentence. So closed at, reached at, ended at, culminated is a nice vocabulary word, finished at. So I have given you many. If you have 4 lines, use 4 of these for reporting the last year figures. Then you have vocabulary to describe trends. So now a line can be, you see, in this way, this scale. So this is very less. So we can say increase marginally, or we can say a minuscule or a marginal increase, or we can say it went up insignificantly. This is not significantly, this is insignificantly, or rose insignificantly. So we, for this, a gradual, a very small incline, we use these vocabulary trends. Now I'll tell you how we have to write it. Now similarly, if there is a fall and which is very small, so then we have decreased marginally, then you have minuscule, a minuscule or a marginal decrease. So you should keep on changing these also, because the examiner will look at the range of vocabulary which you have used, and you can say went down insignificantly or fell insignificantly. So you can write for this. Similarly, for an increase which is slightly higher, so you can use increase steadily, a steady or a gradual increase, or went up moderately, or rose moderately. Now if it is a fall, like the one we reported for a rise, so this will be gradually, okay? So fell gradually, okay? Then a steady or a gradual decline, went down moderately or fell moderately. So 4 ways of writing this. Now if there is a high increase, so then you can say increase substantially, a substantial or rapid increase, went up dramatically or rose dramatically, or we can even say spectacular upsurge. If suppose a line is like this, it's a spectacular upsurge. So you can write, this is a good vocabulary. Then if it is decreases also in this fashion, so you can write decreased substantially, and we can write a substantial or a rapid decrease, or we can write went down dramatically or fell dramatically. Or if there is a dramatic like the one like this, then we can say a spectacular downsurge. So these are all the vocabulary you should be careful about, because in a task response we have to report the first year figures, we have to report the final year figures. and we have to report the trend in between. The trend is going to consist of all this. Okay. So, and why are we using past tense? Now this you will be knowing if you are given figures in your question, like we are given years 1970, 2000, then the tense which has to be used has to be in the past. It will be past up to 2020, and after 2020 we are going to write in future. Okay, so if their years are mentioned, then we have to use the past, and normally we get the questions which have years mentioned. So normally we use the vocabulary, past vocabulary. Okay, now you can have even a fluctuating or a wavering trend. So those they were going up smoothly, but if it is fluctuating like this, then we have to say the graph experienced or witnessed an fluctuating trend or a wavering trend. It could be stable, constant. So this we have to say a stable or a constant trend. And then we have one in which the it reaches a peak. You see, it goes up till here. It goes up till here. So here we say it reached the peak at whatever figure is corresponds to that. Reached the peak. Or we can say reach the highest point. These I mentioned in the task response. Highest, lowest points, they are always welcome in your reporting in writing task 1. Then you have an opposite direction. It's a fall. So we say reached a trough. This point is a trough. Like that was a peak, this is a trough. Or reach the lowest point. So now I wish to tell you what is the vocabulary for time phrases, because in line chart you always have these years. So when you're moving from this to upper years, you have to use some time phrases. So one is subsequently, then moving on, post this period, after this, then finally. So you can use 3 or 4 of them, not use just one. So these will be counted as your linkers in coherence. So in line chart, apart from using the other ones like in contrast, you can use these. Okay. Now we have a general vocabulary for all charts. I believe this is a very good vocabulary, and this can increase your marks in the vocabulary section. Witnessed. It was witnessed. It was observed. It showed. It noticed. It had. It followed. So these are the vocabulary you can use normally in all the charts. Then you have vocabulary for future trends. This I have written because in this chart you have 20 years of in the future. So we have to write will, projected to, anticipated to, predicted to. So we already have predictions for their predictions, then likely to, expected to. So these are enough of future reporting, right? Now, lastly, we have to see conjunctions which are required to form complex sentences, because in the 4th parameter we have a grammatical accuracy and range. So grammatical accuracy is your tenses and all should be correct, but grammatical range means you have to write a range of sentences, not only simple sentences but complex sentences, passive sentences. So for that we have to use we can use the following conjunction. I'll tell you how we can write them in this writing task, which I'll come up with after this. While, at the same time, followed by, before, in comparison to, which, at, after, whereas. So there are 10 conjunctions, maybe more, but 10 also if you can use 4 or 5 in your any task of writing. So this should suffice. It will give you good marks in your 4th parameter, and that is grammatical range and accuracy. So now that we have the appropriate tools, writing task 1 line chart can be comparatively easy, or will be comparatively easy, because these are the things which you have to mention to get a good grade. So structure of writing task 1 essays is, first you have to write an introduction, then you have to write an overview, then you have to write body paragraph 1, and body paragraph. You cannot write in one body paragraph. I think you will be penalized for that. So you should write in two body paragraphs at least. If you want, you can write even a third body paragraph. And you should leave one line in between these, that you will be knowing. Okay. So now introduction. So let us see this diagram first. It says the graph below gives information about the percentage of the population in 4 Asian countries living in cities. They are living from this to this with predictions for this. Now we have to inform by selecting and reporting. See main features. So they themselves are saying you don't have to report all the features, main features, and you have to make comparisons where relevant. So now we have percentage of the population living in cities, and these are the 4 countries. Okay, and these are the 4. And normally what I do is that to avoid confusion, so this is a square. So we see square is Malaysia. So I put M here. Okay, so that I don't report it longly. And M would mean M here. M here. Then you have Malaysia, Philippines. Philippines will be this one, this black. So we put P here and we put P here. Then we have Thailand. Thailand has a cross. So this is T and cross. This is T. And lastly you have Indonesia. Indonesia is with triangle. So Indonesia and Indonesia. Indonesia would be this one, yes. So this is very important so that you do not, get confused and write the wrong data. Okay. So now let's see the introduction. How introduction is, you have to paraphrase what is given in your question. So the line graph, now instead of gives, we say depicts. So we have written depicts or displays. Data, for information we have taken data. Regarding the proportion, so for percentage we have written proportion of the population in, now they have said 4 Asian countries. Here we have mentioned, this is good because you come to know about the country, name of the countries. So you can write this: Philippines, Malaysia, Thailand and Indonesia. And they are saying living in. So for that we have said residing in. And they have said cities. So we say in urban areas. They have written from 1970 to 2020. So we just changed between 2070 and 2020. There it is to for from, and here it is and. If you write between. With projections. So they said with predictions. I have written with projections up to 2040. The figures are represented in percentile. This also you can write in your introduction. So what is given on the y-axis? So this you have to write here. Percentile of total population. You can even write in percentile of total population. So this is the introduction, and this is remains almost the same for all the paragraphs that we have to report. So now overall. So for in writing overall, we have to see higher line, which is higher, and lines which are lower. So one reporting can be this, and second reporting is normally that increase or decrease over the years. What did it see? Increase or decrease? And then you can mention the sort of increase decrease. Does any line chart witness a very high rate of growth? So for this I have written overall it is ostensible. This is a vocabulary word which I have underlined. So it's nice to start off with a good vocab, ostensible. Bulkul, it is very clear, amply clear that all the 4 countries witnessed. Now this is the vocabulary word which I have used for general, from general vocabulary, witness. An inclining trend. This is the trend. It was an inclining trend. All the 4 countries, you see, they reach a higher figure than their initial figure. So they witnessed an inclining trend. during the period. Okay, this is clear. But I'm saying there's a contradiction. Malaysia and Indonesia, they observed a more rapid growth. So Malaysia, you see, it observed a more rapid growth. Even Indonesia observed a more rapid growth. Here, the growth is less. So we have mentioned which is expected to continue in the future. So this which will make it a complex sentence, and expected to continue in the future, because here also it continues in the future. So this is the overall. Now let's come to paragraph 1 to commence with. This is the linker we said we should use for our coherence to commence with. The proportion of population living in cities in Malaysia and Indonesia. So let's see Malaysia, Indonesia, and we have to see the initial figures. So Malaysia is somewhere here. So Malaysia and Indonesia during 1970 was at 30, at makes it a complex sentence, was at 30% and at around 14% respectively. This is a nice way of reporting, because you take up two countries and you say what their figures were in the first year. So these are 30 and 14. Now subsequently, this is a time phrase we have used. Both Malaysia and Indonesia noticed, again noticed is general vocab, a rapid incline. So you see they noticed a rapid incline. This also notices a rapid incline in urban population until 2020. So up till 2020 here and 2020 here. Here. This is rapid. But after that it becomes less. So then you say rapid incline until before expecting a moderate growth. So before will make a complex sentence. So before a moderate growth, they notice a rapid incline. Before expecting a moderate growth, now expecting why? Because after 2020, we are in the future. So expecting a moderate growth. This is a moderate growth. This is a moderate growth. This is a moderate growth. And culminating at the highest figures of around 83%. So I wanted to report this figure, 83%. So culminating at the highest figures of around 8 in Malaysia and at about 60% in Indonesia. In Indonesia, it is about 60%. Okay, now one more thing, that you can divide your two paras in two manners. One is I could have reported all four up till 2000, and then I could have in the second para reported, so first para I report up to 2000, I divide the years, and the second para I report after 2000. But in this will not give a nice reporting. A nice reporting is that you compare two line graphs in the first para and compare the remaining two. If there are three, then we have two in the first and the third in the second paragraph. So now moving on to the second paragraph, moving further, Philippines had the highest figure of a little over 30% in 1970. So Philippines, we come to Philippines. So Philippines, it a figure of higher, little higher. Figure of a little over, this is a nice way to state it, a little over 30% in 1970. Whereas now this is a complex conjunction. Whereas in Thailand, it was a little less than 20%. So in Thailand, it was less during the same period. Now this during the same period is a conjunction which will make it a complex sentence. Post this period, linker, the proportion of urban population in Philippines followed again is a vocabulary, a fluctuating trend. So for Philippines, we are saying, see, it is here, then goes up, then goes down, then goes up. It is a fluctuating trend and is projected to, this is final future figures, close at around 50% in 2040. In 2040, it is expected to close at around 40%. In contrast, so this is a nice way, this is a nice linker. In contrast, this proportion increased marginally until 2020. So there was difference. There it was followed a fluctuating. Here it increased marginally until 2020. Okay, and in Thailand it increased. See, and then what? And will increase rapidly. Marginally up till here, then it will increase rapidly. So rapidly afterwards to reach at about 48% in 2040. So Friends, this is the way in which we can write a line graph. And in this line graph, I have taken care to address all the task response requirements. And then I have used the proper linkers, and I have written a whole range of vocabulary, and I have also used conjunctions which make the sentences complex. So if you like this video, please like, share it, and subscribe it. And in future, again, I'm going to post many such videos. And if you have any questions, please comment in the description box. Thank you.